Hey y'all, I'm Hope. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you all have had a really relaxing holiday, and if not, I hope you're getting some time to relax now. It's just past Christmas. It's actually currently Boxing Day for me, and now that Christmas is over, I am bringing you my last book haul of the year because I got my last couple of books I knew I was getting for Christmas. So these are the last few things I've acquired in 2023, and I'm so excited about this stack. I've read a couple of these already, but all of these are books that I am just unbelievably excited to read. They all sound so fantastic. So I am really looking forward to reading these, especially for some of these I have plans to read them early in 2024. And yeah, I could say I'm excited like 15 more times, but I think you get the point. I think we're gonna dive in with the ebooks and then we'll move on to the physical books from there. So the first two ebooks that I have here are ones that I've seen a lot of people like read and love in the last couple of years. So I just want to give them a try because they're in genres that I'm kind of exploring, kind of figuring out my tastes in now. So the first one is Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannon, which is a fantasy romance. I'm finding that like if I'm gonna like a romance, it tends to be a fantasy romance. I don't typically really enjoy contemporary romance, but I've heard so many good things about this one, and I'm not entirely clear what the fantasy element is here. I know there is a fantasy element, but I'm just really excited to give this one a try because I've seen so many excellent reviews of it, and it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I did read the sample on Amazon before I actually bought it, and I thought that the writing style was fun, and I really liked the dynamic between the two main characters, so I'm really looking forward to this one. The other one that I picked up at the same time was Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cesar, which I believe is a YA slasher, and I'm finding that I really like slashers. I'm kind of like trying to explore more in that kind of subgenre, and I've seen so many people love this book that it just seemed like a good next step, you know, to take in my exploring the slasher subgenre. So I'm really excited to give this one a try. I know that a lot of people were loving this. I think it was like last summer or the summer before. I know it's set in summer, so this is one I probably will try to save so I can read it during the summer, but it just seems like it's gonna be just like a really fun book. The last four ebooks I have were all books that my best friend just gifted me for Christmas, and a few of these were ones that she's already read that she wants me to read so we can talk about them, and then one of them was one that she wants me to read so I can tell her if it's good or not, if the marketing copy is like accurate. So the first book that she gifted me was Winter Be My Shield by Joe Spurrier, which is the beginning of an adult epic fantasy series, I think. I don't really know much about the plot. I believe there's a young woman who is on the run from some like king or a royal family, and for some reason ends up, I think, allying with the guy that's chasing her. So I don't know what's going on there. It sounds really interesting though, and my best friend loved this and has been like recommending it to me for a while. And then there's also some connections that she's seen between it and some of the character choices in it in connection with Baldur's Gate 3, which is really interesting. So I need to read this one hopefully very soon so that we can actually have that discussion, because I'm currently playing Baldur's Gate 3 with her and I have just made it to Act 3 recently. So I've got a little ways to go yet, but I'm excited to read this and get to like talk about the connections between these different characters. Then she also gifted me Radiance by Grace Draven, and this is the one she wants me to read and let her know if it's good. This is, I believe, another fantasy romance, but it's supposed to have like a lot of political intrigue and political machinations in it. Sounds super fun. And I've heard so many good things about this one as well. I've heard that the romance is really well done and it's a really good version of, I think, not quite enemies to lovers, but like they're people who are like from such different contexts and they're different species and they look very different from each other. So there's like a lot of a gap, I guess, to bridge, and the way that that's addressed is supposed to be really well done. So I'm really excited to read this one, and I love anything with good political machinations, so I'm excited. And I'm hoping it's gonna be as good as I've heard people say it is, because it sounds like it could be right up my alley. So really looking forward to reading that one soon too. The next one she gifted me was Sword Dance by AJ DeMoss, which is yet another fantasy romance, and it's about these two people who end up, I think, trapped on in a big manor when there's some sort of like unexpected conflict with the people in the manor, and they're having to like try to navigate all of the politics and figure out some sort of mystery. I know very little about the plot of this one, but this was another one my friend said that she loved, and I can't remember, there was a book that she read. It was either Taste of Golden Iron or it might have been A Strange and Stubborn Endurance. It was one of those two, and she didn't like it. But she said that she had read this other book, Sword Dance, that did some of the same things, but did them like much better. So I'm excited to give it a try and kind of see what she means with that, because I haven't read A Strange and Stubborn Endurance yet, but I have read A Taste of Golden Iron, and I know what her issues are with that one. So if it's one of those two, I'm hoping to read A Strange and Stubborn Endurance soon, but I'm really curious to see like what Sword Dance does with those like similar elements. I think it's going to be a really interesting one, and another one that we're going to have like a lot of conversations about. And then the last book that she gave me, I have actually already read. This is Digger Unearthed by Ursula Vernon. It's a graphic novel adapted from a webcomic. It's like 800 pages long, and I tore through it in like 2 or 3 days. It's really good. This is about a wombat named Digger of Unnecessarily Convoluted Tunnels, who accidentally digs a tunnel into a temple of Ganesh and does not know how she got there exactly. There seems to have been some magic involved, and so she ends up meeting all of these different interesting characters as she's trying to figure out how did she get here and how does she get home again. So those are all of the ebooks that I have, and I think since I've read Digger Unearthed, let's talk about the physical books I've already read first. And there are just 2 of those, so that should be pretty quick. I already read System Collapse by Martha Wells, which I had an arc for, and I love this. I love Murderbot. This is the 7th book in the Murderbot Diary series, and I really loved the direction that this went. This one is a direct follow-up to book 5. It's kind of jumping off within a few hours or a few days of the end of book 5 and continuing on with the conflict that we see happen in that book. And I liked the direction that this took for that. I liked the new character relationships that were formed in here, and I just had like a great time reading this one. So I'm looking forward to getting more Murderbot. I think there are at least 1, maybe 2 more Murderbot books that she's under contract for, so I'm very excited to see where Murderbot goes next. And then the other one I've already read is The Christmas Appeal by Janice Hallett, which is a Christmas-themed murder mystery set in the same, like, small village as The Appeal. Same cast of characters. This is basically taking place through the emails and text messages of a community theater group. And it's just, like, lots of drama, lots of kind of group politics, and then there's also this kind of mystery that crops up in the middle of it. And this is happening while they are producing their like Christmas Jack and the Beanstalk play, and it was just so much fun. I really enjoyed this. I read it in a single evening. It was just like a fun one to sit down and read. I had a few issues with some of the pacing choices here, but I think this was a really fun like Christmas episode of what the characters from The Appeal are getting up to now that like the events of The Appeal have happened. So had a lot of fun reading this one. Now the rest of these I haven't read yet, but they're all ones that I have, mostly ones that I have plans to read soon, but ones that I am just so excited to get to. So first up, I have a couple of books that I got actually at my local library. It was some books that they were culling out of their collection. So they have like a rack near the front doors where you can just like buy them for, I think these were like 50 cents a piece or something. So I picked up a couple that I thought sounded interesting that I'd never heard of. So I got the Eterna Files by Leanna Renee Heber, which is some sort of like alternate history sci-fi thing where there's a group of people that I think are looking for the formula for immortality, and then a bunch of world governments get involved in like trying to find this formula, and kind of like something has happened with the project group, and now there's these different people who are trying to find the formula or protect the formula, and it just sounds like it's going to be really interesting and high stakes. And then I also have The Lost Kings by Tyrell Johnson, which is about, I believe, a woman whose like brother and father go missing, and they went missing when she was young, and then a childhood friend of hers shows back up in her life like many years later, and she ends up going on this journey to figure out what actually happened to her missing family members. It sounds super interesting, and the thing that really sold me on this was that I was looking up the books that they had on their rack while I was standing there on Goodreads, and this one, the author had written like a review talking about like the experience of writing this book. And one of the things he mentioned in it was that he basically wrote the book for his wife. It had all of her like favorite story elements in it, and basically ended the review with like, you know, she really enjoyed it. I hope you do too. So I think that that was so cute, and I just wanted to give this one a shot because that was such a like charming little dedication to his wife and his like discussion of this book. Then I have another pre-order from this year, which was Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. I've seen a lot of people reading and loving this one. I think it's not for everyone. I've seen a few negative reviews, but I've heard mostly positive reviews, and it's supposed to be like a gothic kind of spooky house story. Sounds like right up my alley, and I'm excited to get to it. I read a short story from Alex E. Harrow earlier in the year, and while I didn't love that particular story, I really enjoyed her writing, so I'm excited to see what she does with like a full-length novel. Then I have it's actually more than one book, but I'm representing it with one book because I got the entirety of the Sookie Stackhouse series by Charlaine Harris. I found them in a used bookstore while I was on a trip with my family. We'd gone to like spread my grandmother's ashes, and we took one day to like go and explore locally, and there was a really cute little used bookstore, and I found the entirety of the Sookie Stackhouse series, and I wanted to read them because this is like the next, or I wanted to get them because this is the next like cursed books series that I'm reading for my friend's enjoyment. And I'm finishing up the All for the Game series by Nora Sakavic at the moment, but these are the ones I'm going to be reading next. And I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be silly. I did get the entire series, and I am holding up one because there's far too many of them. Then I got the Evernight edition of Last to Leave the Room by Caitlin Starling, which this cover freaks me out so bad. I've actually been like putting it places where I can't look at the cover because I don't like this thing making eye contact with me. There's another one on the back. It's very spooky. I don't know anything about the story of this other than there is a scientist who finds a weird door in her basement, and I think the world is like flooding or something, and she's a part of the team that's trying to figure out what's going on and stop it, but she finds a weird door in her basement that leads to a room that she's never been into before, and in the room is a doppelganger of her, and she's trying to figure out like what's going on, where did it come from, what does it want. Sounds super creepy. I've heard some good things about Caitlin Starling's writing, and I'm just very excited to dive into this. Even if the cover freaks me out, I'm probably gonna take off the dust jacket while I'm reading it because there's just like a door underneath, and that's fine. That's less upsetting to me. So yeah, I'm excited to read this one, but the cover does very much freak me out. Next up, I have A Power Unbound by Freya Marske. This was another pre-order that I'm super excited for. This is the third and final book in the Last Binding trilogy, and I just love Freya Marske's writing. It's just so good. Her characters are so good. I'm currently reading A Restless Truth. I'm not reading it like at the moment, but I've started it. I've read about 60 pages, and I am loving that one. I kind of set it aside because I didn't want to try and race through it for the readathon that I'm currently doing, so I've kind of set it aside. I'm hoping to read it in January, but then I'm going to get to this one, and I'm just so excited to read these. I love this series so much, and I think the characters are all just like fantastic, so I'm excited to see these characters get their romance. One of them I haven't met yet, but the other one is Lord Hawthorne, who shows up in the first book, and he's like totally an asshole in the first book, but then in the second book he kind of has this like begrudging friendship with one of the main characters, so I'm excited to see where his character is going to go in the third book. The next two I got as a like blind date with a book thing at the bookstore near my boyfriend's apartment. We were just kind of wandering around shopping one day, and I was gonna get one, and he talked me into getting two of them because he is nothing if not an enabler of my reading habit. But I bought these, and I'm hoping to do a vlog with both of them. I want to read both. They're so interesting sounding, and they're both mysteries that I would not have picked up otherwise. I'd never heard of either of these before. So I have Midnight at the Bright Ideas bookstore, which is about a bookseller who, she has some sort of dark past or some sort of hidden past, and she's working at this bookstore, and then one of the bookstore regulars commits suicide in the upper rooms of the bookstore, or in the back rooms or something, and in his pocket is a picture of her when she was a child, and she did not, as far as she knows, know him before working at this bookstore. So she's trying to like figure out how to get that picture and what's going on, how is this all connected to her past, which I think sounds really weird and interesting. And then the other one is The Windsor Knot by S.J. Bennett, which is like a murder mystery where the main character is Queen Elizabeth. That's it. That's all I know. And it sounds super weird. I did read a couple of pages of it, and I was like, it's gonna be so weird reading a book where like a real person or a fictionalized version of a real person is the detective, and especially somebody who is like so high profile. So I'm really interested to see what this one is going to be like because I have no idea what to expect here. More recently, I picked up The Mystery at Dunvegan Castle by T.L. Huchu, which is book 3 in the Edinburgh Nights series. I just read book 2, so I picked this one up because I'm really loving that series, and I'm excited to see where things are going to go from there. I've noticed that like in book 2 we started to get some like little threads that are suggesting a bigger overarching plot, so I'm excited to see where those are going to go. But this one is also particularly exciting because this is an isolated close circle mystery where she is at Dunvegan Castle for this big event, and somebody steals something, and she's trying to figure out which of the attendees at this event stole it. Just sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, and I love Ropa as a protagonist. She's just so much fun to read about, and she has such an interesting view of the world, and I love this series, and I'm excited to see where Ropa's adventures take her next. And then the last few are my kind of Christmas books. One of them was my gift to myself, but first my partner gifted me The Hexologist by Josiah Bancroft because he's seen me pick this book up like a number of times. We've been to bookstores a few times, and he's watched me like pick it up, walk around with it, and then go put it back just too many times. So he bought it for me so that I could stop doing that. Now this next one was my gift to myself, and it's Not something I would normally pick up, but I just saw somebody recommend this on TikTok and my interest was piqued. But I picked up A Fatal Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum by Emma Seven, and this one was recommended on TikTok by Michael Kist. He's just started showing up on my For You page recently, and he reads a lot of like Roman history, but this one in particular sounded interesting. It's all about murder in ancient Rome, and the way he was talking about it in his review video for it just made it sound like it was going to be such a fascinating read. And I typically really do like kind of history of crime, history of law, history of justice kinds of nonfiction. Also read a lot of like history of science, history of medicine kind of nonfiction. So I'm very excited to dive into this and see what it's like, because it just sounds like it's going to be so interesting. The author is pulling from like existing records or like the records that have survived of like instances of murder in ancient Rome, not just like the really high profile ones, but like other instances of murder that happened amongst like within families, or like there's like a section on murders in the Senate, but also murder. Yeah. So the sections are like murder on the Senate floor, murder in Roman law, murder in the family, murder in marriage, murder in the slave state, murder by magic, murder in the imperial house, murdering an emperor, and judicial murder. So I think that sounds super fascinating, and I'm so excited to give this one a shot just because I haven't read anything like this in a while. It's been a good long while since I really read much in the way of nonfiction, and that's something I really want to try and read more of in 2024. So on a similar note, my mom actually gifted me another nonfiction book that's also a kind of like this one's more to do with like criminal psychology, but this is All That Is Wicked by Kate Winkler Dawson, which is about, I think his name is Edward Roloff, who had been convicted of a bunch of crimes, and he was to be executed, but there were all of these different experts who were arguing that he shouldn't be executed because he was too intelligent, and they wanted to study him. So it's about like all of the different conclusions that these various experts in different fields came to when studying Roloff, and I think his brain is like still preserved somewhere if I remember correctly, but sounds super interesting. And again, I just want to read more nonfiction, and I love this particular variety of like history of forensics, criminal psychology, those kinds of nonfiction. Really appeals to my background in criminology, so I am really excited to give this one a try as well. So those are all of the books that I got in 2023 in the last little quarter of it, and I'm so excited to read all of these. I know that's been said 50 times already, but I just really am, and I'm really hoping to read more nonfiction next year, and I'm thrilled. This is such a nice stack, and it's so many like different genres, so I think it's gonna be like a really fun variety. I'm spending 2024 really trying to like read off of my shelves, so I'm not gonna be hauling as many books in 2024, and that means I'm hopefully gonna be getting to these very soon, and I couldn't be more excited. So anyway, I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, I hope you'll consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. I'm currently posting every Tuesday and Saturday, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.